The night was heavy with rain, as Grant Whitmore stood frozen outside a small park in Austin, Texas. In the distance, Madison Cole held the hands of their twin boys, Logan and Hunter, guiding them toward home. The children laughed, unaware of the man watching, unaware he was their father. Grant's lips trembled as he whispered their names, his voice drowned by thunder. They never turned back. His heart shattered under the weight of choices made long ago, choices that could never be undone. Love, once sacrificed, had turned to ashes, and regret had become his only companion. This is a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and painful consequences. A billionaire who traded true love for lies and returned 10 years later to a family that no longer wanted him. Stay with us as we unfold every shocking twist of this emotional journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share so more people can feel the weight of this unforgettable tale. Your engagement keeps stories like this alive, and we promise what comes next will break your heart in ways you won't expect. Madison Cole had never planned for love to strike inside a library, yet fate had a curious sense of timing. On a quiet afternoon at the Seattle Public Library, she reached for a design book that caught her attention. At the same moment, another hand, firm, steady, belonging to a tall stranger, reached for the very same title. Their fingers brushed. Papers slipped from Madison's folder, scattering across the polished floor. Embarrassed, she knelt quickly, only to find him kneeling too. Their eyes met, and something unspoken lingered there. Curiosity, warmth, and perhaps a spark too powerful to ignore. Grant Whitmore wasn't accustomed to moments beyond his control. As a self-made tech mogul, ordered to find his world, yet this small accident disarmed him. Helping Madison gather her scattered notes, he noticed her neat sketches, filled with ideas for grand events and elegant spaces. "You're talented," he murmured, surprising himself. Madison laughed softly, brushing hair from her eyes. "Just dreams on paper," she replied. But to Grant, it was more than paper. It was vision, a woman with ambition, unlike those who surrounded him for wealth alone. In that instant, he knew she was different, and curiosity drew him closer. Their conversation began with polite introductions, but something about Madison's grounded nature intrigued Grant. While he spoke of software innovations and market predictions, she listened genuinely, her hazel eyes holding him steady. Madison confessed she worked as an event planner, striving to build her reputation in a competitive industry. Grant admired her passion. It mirrored his own hunger for success years earlier. Hours slipped by unnoticed until library lights dimmed, urging visitors toward the exit. Neither wanted to part. When they finally exchanged numbers, Madison smiled warmly, never suspecting this chance encounter would alter the course of her entire life. The days that followed unfolded like a whirlwind. Grant's world of sharp suits and investor calls blended with Madison's vibrant creativity, where every color choice carried meaning. Their first dinner was simple, Italian food at a quiet corner bistro, but Grant found it refreshing, free from corporate masks. Madison teased him for checking emails too often, while he admired her ability to find joy in little things. Soon, late-night phone calls became routine, laughter filling spaces where silence once ruled. Both carried private scars, yet together they discovered an ease, a harmony suggesting destiny had intervened with purposeful timing. One evening, as autumn painted Seattle in gold, Grant invited Madison to a company gala. She hesitated. Her gowns were modest compared to the glittering world of billionaires, but Grant insisted she belonged. When she entered, heads turned. Madison wore elegance with effortless grace, holding her chin high despite whispered judgments. Grant introduced her proudly, ignoring envious stares. Later, as music drifted through the hall, he whispered, "You steady me." Madison's heart fluttered, for his words felt raw and unguarded in that crowded ballroom. They were simply two souls clinging to something real, something fragile, something greater than wealth alone. Love blossomed quickly, surprising even them. By winter, Grant took Madison to San Francisco, guiding her to a private rooftop overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. The city lights sparkled against the night sky as wind teased her hair. "Madison," he began, his voice trembling in a way boardrooms had never caused, "you've changed everything for me." He knelt, producing a ring that caught the city's glow. Her gasp lingered in the cool air as tears blurred her vision. "Yes," she whispered without hesitation. The world fell away. In that moment, only promise remained of love, loyalty, and a shared forever. Their wedding was intimate, though draped in elegance. Madison walked down the aisle in a silk gown, eyes shimmering with both hope and disbelief. Grant, usually composed, wiped away tears as he vowed fidelity before family, friends, and executives curious about his bride. The celebration carried laughter, music, and whispered dreams of a future they would build together. Beneath Manhattan's glittering skyline, they moved into a penthouse that overlooked Central Park. It was more than a home. It was a symbol of triumph, of love's unexpected power to bridge worlds so different, yet united by undeniable passion and promise. Life in the penthouse shimmered with opulence. Mornings began with city views stretching endlessly, nights with champagne toasts over candlelight dinners. Yet for Madison, the greatest joy wasn't luxury. It was the quiet moments. Cooking together barefoot in the kitchen, sharing stories from childhood, teasing Grant when he burned toast. In those moments, he wasn't a billionaire titan. He was simply her husband. She decorated their home with touches of warmth. Photographs, bookshelves, fresh flowers. Friends whispered envy, but Madison knew perfection was fragile. Still, she dared to believe their love was untouchable. Unaware storms already gathered beyond her sight. The first sign came subtly. Longer hours at the office, late meetings that Madison tried not to question. She told herself ambition fueled Grant's drive, as it always had. Yet his laughter grew rarer, his embraces shorter, replaced by distracted nods. Madison fought doubts, focusing instead on making their home a refuge. She filled evenings with soft music, prepared his favorite meals, lit candles by the window. Grant noticed, but only with fleeting gratitude before retreating into silence. Madison told herself love endured valleys, as well as peaks, clinging to hope that her devotion might rekindle what seemed to be fading. Despite unease, Madison's devotion never wavered. She watched Grant struggle under mounting pressures, his empire expanding yet draining him. One night, he returned weary, admitting challenges that threatened everything he built. Madison listened intently, then quietly revealed her intention: to sell her late parents' property, a cherished inheritance, to provide financial relief. Grant was stunned. Her sacrifice was immense. "For us," she said firmly, "for the future we promised." He pulled her into his arms, whispering gratitude. Yet beneath his embrace, shadows remained. Madison's faith soared, believing love triumphed, while Grant's mind, already restless, drifted toward darker paths unseen. Months later in Manhattan, the glow of their wedding had not yet dimmed when storms began gathering in Grant Whitmore's empire. Investors whispered of losses. Competitors pressed harder, and Madison often found him pacing the penthouse balcony late into the night. She tried to reassure him, reminding him of their vows, of resilience. One evening, she quietly placed legal documents on the table. She had sold her late parents' cherished property, a sprawling home in Portland, to inject funds into his company. Tears welled in Grant's eyes as he hugged her tightly, whispering thanks. Yet deep inside, unease still quietly gnawed at him. Madison's sacrifice made headlines in business circles, portraying her as a supportive wife of a billionaire fighting to keep his empire afloat. Friends praised her devotion, but Madison cared little for recognition. She only wanted to see the man she loved regain peace. Grant, however, felt conflicted. Pride battled gratitude, while whispers of weakness circled Wall Street, bruising his ego. Nights once filled with laughter grew tense, filled instead with phone calls, financial updates, and restless silences. Madison continued believing her sacrifice had secured their future, unaware that seeds of resentment had already taken root in Grant's restless heart. The first fracture appeared when Grant canceled a planned weekend getaway. Madison had spent days preparing, believing they needed time together away from boardrooms and stress. But Grant arrived home late, tie loosened, eyes hollow, muttering only, "Not now, Madison." She smiled faintly, masking her disappointment. That night, She lay awake beside him, listening to his shallow breathing, wondering when closeness had become distance. She told herself it was temporary, that once stability returned, so would his warmth. Yet doubt began whispering louder with each missed dinner, each unanswered call. Each night, she fell asleep clutching empty sheets alone. Autumn arrived, painting Central Park in fiery hues. Yet Madison felt chilled by the growing emptiness in their home. Grant often claimed late-night meetings demanded his attention, but Madison noticed perfume clinging faintly to his suit. She shook the thought away, scolding herself for doubting the man who once cherished her. Instead, she poured energy into her event-planning business, designing galas and weddings that filled others with joy while her own marriage quietly withered. At night, she lit candles and waited for Grant's return, whispering prayers into the silence, clinging to hope that love might still conquer distance. One crisp evening, Madison stood on the balcony, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea. Grant joined her, his expression unreadable. "The company's secure again," he finally said, almost as if testing the words aloud. Madison smiled with relief, imagining brighter days ahead. "Then maybe we can finally breathe," she replied. He kissed her forehead gently, but his eyes drifted elsewhere, as though searching for something she could not provide. Madison ignored the sting in her chest, convincing herself victory over financial struggles meant victory for their marriage, not realizing different battles were already being quietly waged. That winter, Madison discovered she was pregnant. The revelation left her trembling with joy and nervous excitement. She planned an elaborate dinner, cooking Grant's favorite dishes, hoping to rekindle intimacy with the news. When he arrived, distracted and weary, she nervously placed a small gift box in front of him. Inside lay 2 tiny baby shoes tied together with ribbon. Grant's reaction stunned her. His face paled, his jaw tightened, and silence stretched unbearably. "You're serious?" he muttered coldly. Madison's heart cracked at his tone. She had expected laughter, tears of joy. Instead, she saw only distance and disappointment. Grant's coldness lingered for days. He offered no congratulations, no tender embrace, only curt acknowledgments when Madison mentioned the babies. She told herself stress clouded his response. That time would melt the ice forming between them. Yet at night, she heard him pace in the living room, muttering calculations figures, as though the children were an equation that threatened his empire. Madison cried quietly into her pillow, aching for the man who once whispered promises under starlight. She placed gentle hands on her stomach, whispering reassurances to her unborn twins, vowed to love them fiercely, even if Grant refused to. One evening, Madison confronted Grant directly. "Why can't you be happy about this?" she asked, voice breaking. Grant avoided her gaze, retreating to his desk. "Children complicate everything," he said flatly. Madison stared at him in disbelief. "There are children, Grant. Our family." His silence screamed louder than words. She turned away, hiding tears. In that moment, Madison realized the man she married, the man she sacrificed for, was slipping away, yet she refused to surrender. She decorated a nursery, read parenting books, and dreamed of future lullabies, clinging desperately to the belief that love could still prevail. Madison's hopes dimmed further when whispers about Denise Holloway, their trusted housekeeper, reached her ears. Neighbors commented on how often Grant and Denise seemed to share conversations in hushed corners. Madison dismissed them, telling herself people love gossip. Denise had worked with family for years. Surely loyalty outweighed suspicion. Yet unease gnawed at Madison's spirit, even as she brushed doubt aside. She busied herself with work and preparations of the twins, unaware the truth was darker than rumors suggested. Behind closed doors, Grant was already entangled in betrayal, a deception Madison's faith had blinded her from seeing. Madison's pregnancy advanced, her body glowing with maternal anticipation, but her heart remained heavy. She longed for Grant to share her excitement, to paint nursery walls together, to dream of tiny footsteps echoing across their penthouse floor. Instead, she often ate dinner alone, her laughter swallowed by silence. She wrote letters to her unborn sons, promising them unconditional love. She told herself everything would change once they arrived, that Grant's heart would soften, that joy would conquer bitterness. Yet deep down, she sensed storms brewing, storms that would soon tear apart everything she sacrificed to build with him. The night of betrayal, Madison prepared a candlelit dinner, determined to bring warmth back into their fractured home. She wore a soft blue dress, her hand often brushing her rounded stomach as she set the table. Tonight, she thought, would be different. Grant entered late, his expression hardened, eyes colder than the winter winds outside. She revealed the surprise, a framed ultrasound photo showing their twin boys. Expecting joy, she smiled through tears. Instead, his face twisted with disdain. "You've trapped me," he snapped, voice dripping venom. Madison's heart shattered. This moment, meant for celebration, became the cruelest wound she had ever endured. Grant's words burned deeper than knives. He called Madison reckless, claiming she ruined his future, accusing her of being needy, weak, and burdensome. She clutched the ultrasound photo, trembling, unable to recognize the man she once adored. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "They're your sons, Grant. Our family." He laughed bitterly, tossing his jacket across the couch. "Family? You're nothing but a mistake I can't undo." Madison staggered back, hands on her stomach, shielding her unborn children from a verbal assault. In that instant, she realized his love had not simply dimmed. It had been entirely extinguished. The shouting continued, echoing through marble halls that once held promises. Madison begged for understanding, her pleas falling upon deaf ears. Grant, fueled by arrogance and poisoned desire, declared she was no longer welcome in his life. "Take your things and leave," he ordered coldly. Madison stood frozen, unable to believe the cruelty spilling from his lips. He had discarded her like a forgotten investment, blind to the sacrifices she had made. Finally, with trembling hands, she gathered her belongings, whispering promises of safety to her unborn twins. Her heart bled, but she refused to collapse before his eyes. The night air bit sharply as Madison stepped onto the street, suitcase in hand, tears streaming unchecked. Behind her, the penthouse lights glowed like a cruel reminder of a world she no longer belonged to. Each step away felt like a funeral march, not for her life, but for the dreams she once nurtured. Strangers glanced with pity. Unaware of the storm raging inside her, she wrapped her coat tighter around her growing stomach, whispering, "I'll protect you." Though broken, Madison clung to resilience. The man she once trusted had exiled her, but she would not surrender her strength. Inside the penthouse, Denise Holloway entered cautiously, her eyes glinting with satisfaction. She had heard every word, her role in the betrayal cemented. Grant poured whiskey, ignoring the storm outside, seeking comfort in her presence. "You did the right thing," Denise whispered, her hand brushing his shoulder. He exhaled, tension melting under her touch. Lies dripped easily from her lips, promising understanding Madison could never give. "You deserve peace, not burdens," she cooed. Grant nodded, half believing, half needing the validation. In that moment, Madison's sacrifice faded from his memory, replaced by the poison of Denise's calculated charm and dangerous ambition. Days turned into weeks, and Grant leaned more heavily on Denise. She became his confidant, his constant shadow, whispering reassurances while feeding his ego. She claimed devotion, suggesting she carried his child, fueling his illusion of control and legacy. "You'll be a father to my baby, not hers," Denise slyly murmured one evening. Grant believed her, blinded by desperation and pride. Madison's absence no longer troubled him. Instead, he envisioned a future built with Denise by his side. But beneath her sweet words lurked deception. She had woven a web designed to ensnare him, not out of love, but greed. Meanwhile, Madison found refuge in a modest guest house in Austin, Texas, guided there by a compassionate neighbor she barely knew. Nights were sleepless, haunted by memories of betrayal. Yet she pressed on. She found small work assisting with local events, her talents providing just enough income to survive. More than anything, she focused on the life stirring within her. Each kick reminded her she was not alone. Though abandoned, Madison whispered bedtime stories to her unborn twins, promising them safety, love, and a future unmarred by cruelty. Every word was a vow etched deeper than any broken marriage vow. Grant's penthouse grew darker despite Denise's presence. She demanded gifts, cars, jewelry, vacations, arguing his empire required appearances of strength. Blinded, Grant complied, convincing himself her happiness equaled his redemption. Yet doubt occasionally flickered. When he suggested prenatal appointments, Denise brushed him off with excuses, claiming privacy. He accepted her lies, drowning uncertainty with work and indulgence. "You're all I need," she assured him, while silently tallying each dollar spent. Friends noticed changes, whispering unease, but Grant ignored them. He had convinced himself he was building something lasting, not realizing Denise's loyalty would collapse before his childless future became undeniable. 9 months crawled forward, and Denise's deception reached its breaking point. Grant eagerly awaited fatherhood, investing in nurseries and private doctors who never existed. The truth unraveled one fateful afternoon when a physician, skeptical of Denise's claims, revealed no pregnancy had ever occurred. Rage consumed Grant. Betrayal carved through his pride, leaving emptiness where arrogance once lived. Denise, sensing discovery, vanished with millions, her trail disappearing into foreign accounts. Alone, surrounded by luxury that mocked him, Grant collapsed. In the same month Madison cradled newborn twins, he clutched whiskey bottles and empty ledgers, haunted by the mistress who destroyed him. Across Austin, Madison's cries of labor filled a small hospital room. Hours of pain culminated in the arrival of twin boys, Logan and Hunter. Exhausted yet overwhelmed with joy, Madison pressed him to her chest, whispering promises of a brighter tomorrow. Though Grant had abandoned her, she found strength in their tiny breaths, in the warmth of their fragile hands curling around her fingers. Her tears flowed not from sorrow but from fierce determination. She had lost a husband but gained a purpose greater than herself. The world could strip everything away, but it could not steal her motherhood. Austin, Texas. Madison Cole adjusted to her new reality in Austin. Life there was modest compared to Manhattan's glittering skyline, but the quiet suited her. She rented a small bungalow near a community park, where the air smelled of cedar and barbecue smoke. Days were consumed with caring for Logan and Hunter, who filled her home with cries and coos. At night, exhaustion pressed heavily, but love carried her forward. Though shadows of betrayal lingered, Madison promised her sons a future free from deceit. Their laughter, even as infants, became her medicine, softening scars left by the cruelty she endured. Grant Whitmore, meanwhile, found his empire faltering under the weight of scandal. Rumors spread quickly. His mistress Denise Holloway had vanished with millions, leaving creditors restless and investors skeptical. Grant appeared in boardrooms with tired eyes, masking pain with bravado. Whispers followed him. The mighty tech mogul brought down by arrogance. Nights stretched endlessly, whiskey bottles lining mahogany tables once reserved for strategy sessions. Memories of Madison crept in uninvited, piercing him with guilt, though pride silenced regret. He told himself she was gone, irrelevant, yet part of him knew she carried his true legacy. 2 children he had never met. Back in Austin, Madison leaned on her community. Margaret Dawson, a widowed neighbor, became a guiding presence, offering meals and rocking the twins so Madison could rest. "You're stronger than you know," Margaret often reminded her. Madison worked part-time assisting at local weddings, her talents slowly gaining recognition. Each paycheck stretched thin, but she never complained. Logan and Hunter thrived, their wide eyes reflecting innocence unscarred by betrayal. Madison filled their childhood with bedtime stories, Sunday picnics, and laughter echoing through the modest home. Though her heart carried pain, her spirit refused to crumble. Love became her unshakable foundation. Grant attempted to salvage dignity by hosting lavish events, surrounding himself with investors who questioned his every decision. Yet the emptiness inside him grew unbearable. Denise's betrayal left him raw, stripped of both fortune and trust. In quieter moments, he stared at the skyline, haunted by Madison's face, the softness of her touch, the sacrifices she made. He remembered her inheritance, how she gave everything for him, only for him to cast her aside. Regret pressed heavily, but ego bound him in chains. He could not admit his folly aloud, though silence screamed the truth louder than words ever could. Madison eventually learned of Denise's betrayal through whispers carried by the business world. Articles surfaced in financial columns, detailing the scandal that rocked Grant's empire. At first, she felt numb, then angry. The truth dawned painfully. He had abandoned her for Denise, a mistress who lied her way into his world, only to strip him bare. Madison wept that night, not from longing but from recognition. He hadn't just failed her, he betrayed their unborn children. Yet she also found closure. Knowing the real reason freed her heart from self-blame. Grant's downfall was poetic justice, delivered without her lifting a hand. As years passed, Madison rebuilt herself piece by piece. Her event planning business flourished, earning praise across Austin. She specialized in community galas and heartfelt weddings, clients drawn to her warmth and creativity. Logan and Hunter grew into lively boys, their laughter filling rented halls where their mother worked tirelessly. They often watched from corners, cheering when Madison unveiled decorated venues. Pride blossomed in her heart. She created a life independent of Grant's shadow. She no longer needed skyscrapers or gilded halls to measure her worth. Love and resilience defined her wealth, richer than any billionaire's empire. Grant's path spiraled differently. His empire never fully recovered from Denise's scandal. Though still wealthy, he became a fractured figure, whispers of weakness shadowing his once feared name. Colleagues described him as a man haunted, pacing offices with eyes vacant. At night, loneliness crushed him. He searched for companionship, but found only shallow encounters, women chasing his money rather than his heart. The memory of Madison's steady gaze tormented him. He wondered about the twins. Were they boys or girls, healthy or frail? Pride silenced the urge to search. Still, his soul whispered her name like a forgotten prayer. Logan and Hunter grew into bundles of energy who adored basketball at the community court. Madison cheered from sidelines, heart swelling with pride. She balanced motherhood with work, exhaustion with joy. Sometimes she wondered how different life might have been had Grant chosen love over betrayal. But those thoughts never lingered long. Her focus remained forward. She taught her sons kindness, resilience, and honesty, virtues their father abandoned. At night, she kissed their foreheads, whispering, "You'll be better men than him." Logan giggled in his sleep. Hunter snuggled closer. For Madison, they were her living redemption and brightest purpose. Meanwhile, Grant's wealth masked a hollow life. Lavish penthouses, expensive cars, and glittering parties failed to erase loneliness. Whispers of Madison's resilience reached him through distant acquaintances. She built a business in Austin, one remarked. Another mentioned twin children. Grant's chest tightened, though he feigned indifference. At night, regret surged uncontrollably. He remembered the night he cast Madison out, her tears glistening under the city lights. Whiskey dulled the memories but could not erase them. Beneath the mask of power, he was a broken man yearning for the one family he had destroyed with his arrogance and lies. Logan and Hunter were thriving, racing through life with boundless energy. Madison thrived too, her business respected, her reputation admired. She no longer feared whispers of the past. Instead, she stood tall, a testament to resilience. Meanwhile, Grant's empire, though intact, existed without soul. Every boardroom victory felt empty, every penthouse dinner hollow. He began searching quietly, discreetly, for Madison's whereabouts, curiosity mingling with desperation. Yet fate withheld reunion, forcing him to stew longer in regret. He carried memories of Denise's betrayal like chains, knowing Madison knew the truth. Guilt festered. He had destroyed the only love that mattered. Austin, Texas. 10 years later. A decade had passed since Madison Cole last saw Grant Whitmore. Life in Austin had blossomed into stability, even joy. Her twins, Logan and Hunter, now 10, dribbled basketballs in their driveway, their laughter echoing across the quiet neighborhood. Madison leaned against the porch rail, watching with pride. She no longer woke at night haunted by betrayal. Instead, she dreamed of futures filled with hope. Yet destiny stirred unseen. Grant, haunted by regret and bitterness, had finally tracked him down. From across the street, He stood frozen, staring at the family he once cast aside for lies and selfish desires. Grant's breath caught as he watched the boys play. Their resemblance struck him like lightning. Logan's determined eyes mirrored his own, while Hunter's grin carried echoes of Madison's warmth. He realized with painful clarity he had missed their entire childhood. His chest tightened, his throat ached, and his pride finally gave way to shame. 10 years of silence weighed on him as he whispered their names under his breath. He longed to call out, to rush forward, but fear rooted him still. Regret flooded his soul, sharper than any business loss, for these were losses he could never recover. Madison noticed movement near the driveway and froze. There, half hidden by shadows, stood the man she once called her husband. Grant's tailored suit clashed with Austin's casual ease, his frame thinner, face etched with years of regret. Memories surged. The night he cast her out, the betrayal with Denise, the lonely years of rebuilding. Her jaw tightened. He was not the man she once loved. He was a man who had abandoned her pregnant and alone. As he hesitated, Madison stepped forward, placing herself firmly between Grant and the driveway where her sons continued playing basketball innocently. Grant's steps faltered as he approached, each one heavier than the last. Logan stopped dribbling, frowning curiously. "Are you lost, sir?" he asked politely. Grant's throat tightened. Hearing his son's voice was unbearable. "No, I just wanted to watch," he stammered. Madison's heart clenched, but her stance was unyielding. "Go inside, boys," she instructed, her tone firm. Confused, Logan and Hunter glanced at her, then obeyed, retreating through the front door. Their laughter faded inside the house, leaving silence in the yard. Now it was just Madison and Grant, two broken figures standing on opposite sides of a gulf too wide. Madison's voice cut through the quiet, sharp as glass. "What are you doing here, Grant?" His lips quivered. "They're my sons, Madison. I just wanted to see them. Please let me explain." Her eyes narrowed, fury simmering. "Explain? You knew I was pregnant. You called me worthless, ruined me, and threw me into the streets. 10 years, Grant. 10 years without a word." He trembled, eyes glistening. "I was blind. Denise..." Madison cut him off, voice steady with rage. "Yes, Denise. I know about her lies. I know how she drained you. And I know why you betrayed us." Grant's shoulders sagged, broken by the truth she flung back at him. "Madison, please. She deceived me. She said she was pregnant, lied, and left me with nothing." His voice cracked. Madison's eyes shimmered, though her resolve held firm. "You chose her, Grant. You threw me away for her lies. And while you were drowning in regret, I was giving birth alone, raising 2 boys without help. Do you know what it's like to hear them ask about their father, only to give silence?" Grant sobbed openly, reaching for her hand, but Madison pulled back, her expression unyielding. Grant fell to his knees on the driveway, his expensive suit soaking in dust. "Please, Madison, I've lost everything that mattered. Let me make it right. Let me be their father now." His voice trembled with desperation. Madison's heart ached, but her words carried iron. "Be their father? You forfeited that right when you chose betrayal over family. To them, you're no one, a stranger." Grant's tears blurred his vision. He saw unshakable strength in Madison's eyes, forged from pain he caused. The family he longed for stood only feet away, yet remained forever beyond his broken reach. The sound of the twins' laughter floated from inside the house, piercing Grant's chest. Madison turned briefly, her expression softening before hardening again. "They're happy, Grant. They have love, safety, and stability. What can you offer them now? Regret, empty apologies, or money they don't need?" Her words struck deeper than any corporate defeat. Grant lowered his gaze, shame washing over him. "I can't undo the past, but I can try to be better. Please, Madison." She shook her head, her voice firm. "It's too late. You cannot rewrite 10 years of abandonment with hollow promises and broken tears." Grant's hands trembled as he pressed them against the concrete, his pride stripped away. "Don't they deserve to know me?" he whispered, desperate. Madison's eyes glistened, but her tone was steady. "They deserve honesty, not another lie." They deserve safety, not a father who threw them aside before they were born. I won't let your shadow touch their lives." His heart splintered at her words. He reached for her hand once more, but Madison stepped back firmly. The finality in her eyes struck harder than any storm. The truth was undeniable. He had destroyed the only love that mattered. Dark clouds gathered above, the wind carrying a chill that mirrored Grant's despair. Madison inhaled deeply, her voice final. "Go back to your world, Grant. You made your choice long ago. My sons and I are not your second chance." She turned toward the door, calling softly for Logan and Hunter. The boys rushed out, their small hands clutching hers as they disappeared safely inside. Grant remained outside the house, knees pressed to the driveway, tears streaming freely. His whispers of their names vanished into the wind. Wealth, power, and status meant nothing against the cost of betrayal. The final confrontation. Grant remained kneeling, his pride shredded, his voice hoarse from pleading. "Please, Madison, let me try again. I'll do anything to prove I've changed." His eyes begged for mercy, but Madison's heart stayed firm. She saw not the billionaire who once swept her off her feet, but the man who betrayed her and destroyed their family. "You want forgiveness?" she said coldly. "You want redemption? Too late. You gave up that chance when you chose Denise over me." Her words carried the final blow. Grant bowed his head, crushed by the truth he had tried for years to escape. Madison's voice softened, though it cut deeper than steel. "Do you know how it felt, Grant? To be thrown into the streets, carrying your children? To endure nights wondering if we'd survive while you played house with a liar?" Grant flinched, every word reopening wounds he tried to bury. "I know, Madison. I've suffered too," he stammered. She silenced him with a glare. "No, Grant. You suffered because of your choices. I suffered because of your cruelty. And my sons suffered because they were robbed of father. That pain doesn't vanish just because you decided to return." Grant buried his face in his hands, sobs racking his body. "I see them, Madison. Logan and Hunter, they're incredible. I just want a chance to know them." His voice cracked like broken glass. Madison's chest tightened, but she refused to waver. "And what happens when you disappoint them like you disappointed me? What happens when they see the man who chose betrayal over love? I won't allow that cycle to poison them." Her conviction blazed through the dusk, unshaken. For the first time in his life, Grant realized no amount of begging could sway her decision. The twins appeared briefly at the window, their curious eyes searching. Grant's heart leapt painfully. He raised a trembling hand, whispering, "My boys." Madison quickly pulled the curtains shut, shielding them. "You don't get to claim them now," she said firmly. "You lost that right when you abandoned us." Grant's lips quivered. "I thought I was building something real. Denise convinced me." Madison cut him off. "Stop. You weren't fooled. You wanted her. You wanted escape from responsibility. And she destroyed you. That's justice, Grant. Poetic justice." The weight of her words crushed him deeper than any financial ruin. Rain began to drizzle, soaking Grant as he remained on the driveway. Madison stood above him, unmoved by his pitiful state. "Do you know what kept me going?" she asked softly. "It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was love for my boys. Love you never gave." Her voice cracked, but strength returned quickly. "They will grow into men who value loyalty, honesty, and respect. Qualities you abandoned long ago." Grant looked up, his eyes pleading, but Madison's gaze remained unflinching. She had already mourned the man he once was. The stranger before her was beyond saving. Grant reached out once more, his fingers trembling in the rain. "Madison, I beg you, just one chance. Let me be near them. Let me prove I can change." His desperation filled the air like thunder. Madison shook her head slowly. "I don't believe in your change, Grant. I believe in consequences. And this distance is yours to bear." Her tone carried finality, crushing his last hope. He collapsed forward, forehead against the wet concrete, his sobs muffled by storm. Madison turned away, her back straight, her spirit unbroken. She refused to let pity undo the strength forged by years. The storm thickened, lightning flashing across the sky. Madison stepped toward the door, her silhouette illuminated against the glow inside. "Goodbye, Grant," she whispered, her voice heavy with finality. He lifted his head, rain and tears indistinguishable, but found no words left to speak. She disappeared into the warmth of the house, closing the door softly behind her. For Grant, that sound was louder than any slam. It was the closing of a chapter, the sealing of a fate. He sat motionless, broken, staring at the house that sheltered everything he lost: love, family, and the chance for redemption. Inside, Madison leaned against the door, her body trembling. Logan and Hunter rushed to her side, their innocent eyes filled with questions. "Who was that man, Mom?" Logan asked quietly. Madison hesitated, her heart torn. Finally, she whispered, "Just someone from the past." She pulled them close, inhaling their warmth, grounding herself in their presence. She would protect them, always. They didn't need the weight of their father's sins. They needed her love, her guidance, her strength. And in that moment, Madison realized she was enough. They were a family, whole and complete, even without Grant's broken presence. Grant remained outside, the storm soaking him until his body shook with cold. His mind replayed Madison's words, each one slicing deeper than the last. Visions of the past tormented him. The library meeting, her laughter, their rooftop proposal, the sacrifices she made. He remembered the night he chose Denise, believing lies over love. That single decision had led to this ruin. He whispered their names again, Logan, Hunter, Madison, as if the wind might carry them back. But the night remained silent. The world had moved on without him, leaving only a hollow shell where his empire once stood. The rain slowed, leaving Grant kneeling alone in the darkened driveway. His wealth, power, and influence were meaningless here. For years, he believed redemption could be purchased, that time might heal what pride had shattered. But Madison's rejection revealed the final truth. Some wounds never close. Some betrayals cannot be undone. He rose slowly, his figure trembling beneath the storm's fading light, and walked away, swallowed by shadows. Inside, Madison cradled her sons, their laughter muffling the echoes of regret outside. The story ended not with reunion, but with justice. Love protected, betrayal punished, and regret carved forever into memory.